Hello beautiful and busy people, my name is Dalia and welcome back to my channel. Today we're continuing the story. At the first part of this series, I mentioned advice that Danny and Katrina gave me. At the time you may wonder, just like I was wondering back then, why they were saying all these things to me. I was 25. Sure, maybe I wasn't the most confident person in the world, and yes, it was my first big trip abroad, but I wasn't completely clueless, right? I had lived in a dormitory, I was going in a high school, I held down jobs before, and I had survived until 25. Somehow, right? Well, just before we dive in into the video, with a disclaimer. I was lucky at the first because I shared a room with the people from my own country. We spoke the same language, which means less stress. We started doing what people usually do at those type of environments, sharing our reasons why we're traveling, sharing our life stories, and all sounded so nice and genuine. You know the saying, the time will show what kind of person someone truly is. I still believe in that. In the beginning, everyone, man and woman alike, shared these beautiful versions of themselves. But at a month or so later, new people start arriving to the camp, and turned out some of the newcomers came from exactly same town and little cities as the people who were already there. That's when the real story started coming out. The popular athlete. One woman kept talking about how incredible she was at sports back home, how popular she was, and how different men used to treat her, and how differently people should treat her at the moment as well. But watching her, I was thinking, yeah, sure, everything sounds very incredible. You are cutting broccoli heads, just like me. We're in the same place, in the exactly same situation, aren't we? The illegal bachelor. Another guy kept playing the pity card, talking about how single he was and how long it has been since he had a woman in his life. Then his ex-wife friend arrived at the camp. Suddenly, we found out the truth. He was a heavy drinker, a gambler, he divorced, and he owned the child support. He couldn't find a job in Lithuania, which is the real reason he fled to the camp, a scammer. Another person kept trying to convince people to move in a bigger city and rent the place together, but then when the time came, he just stole everyone's money and vanished. The heartbreak. One situation was just incredibly sad. A man came to the camp strictly to earn money to support his children. Then his ex-wife showed up at the same camp. She didn't care about her kids at all. She left them back home with her parents and spent her time partying, sleeping around. To make it even worse, she wouldn't even let him talk with his children over the phone. I could go on and on, I met so many people who lied about who they are, creating this grand, amazing life just to look good. People who stole money, people who got petty arguments, and people who completely fabricate the reasons for moving abroad. Some claimed they came for their only money, but they was actually running from the massive debts and toxic excess. Others claimed they wanted a fresh start, but they just broke the old habits of drinking, smoking, gambling right along with them. Of course, there was also decent people who came for the personal reasons, hit the targets, and used the camp as a stepping stone to move to the bigger cities and then to do the bigger things. Because I wasn't married, I had no kids, no debts, no toxic exes, no divorce. I had absolutely nothing to hide. I had no reason to lie or pretend. I was just average, simple person. I didn't create the fake persona. I didn't even actually have to. I didn't have a past to cover up. Because of that, I honestly wasn't very interesting to the people in the camp. I was invisible watcher. You might say it like that. A lesson learned. But I don't regret a single moment of experience I went through. Spending time with such chaotic mix of people taught me very heavy life lessons that I do believe that I never would have learned if I had stayed in my comfortable bubble back home. Here is what I realized. First, very banal, but most people truly only think and worry about themselves. Humans are terrified of what other people think of them. They want to look better, wealthier, more successful than they actually are, which is exactly why they construct these elaborated stories. They want to appear mysterious, more attractive. It actually tells you a lot about the inner insecurity. Second, trust but verify. Likely, no one ever stole money from me, but watching other young women and men lose everything taught me a hard lesson. You have to double check absolutely everything. And you keep your bank cards and PIN codes strictly to yourself. Living in that camp, even thought it was only for about 1 year and a half or something, showed me how easily people lose sight of themselves. Unfortunately, I watched it from a distance as the people completely forgot the reason they traveled there in the first place. I saw how addiction can be so much stronger than the human willpower. When you are separated from the real world, living in an isolated camp bubble, it becomes terrifying easy to forget your past life and your morals. And during that time, something happened that completely changed how I view myself. One evening, I was in my room with a girl, let's call her Mirta, come back from the pub, completely drunk, with the guy. They was talking, laughing, and sitting in the room. Then suddenly the guy pulled this plastic bag out of his pocket. I don't even remember what he said next. Because my eyes locked onto that thing, what he's doing. He was pouring white powder right onto the table. I understood immediately what it was. And, wave of a pure fury hit me without thinking twice. I stepped in. I stopped his movements and demanded that he leave the room right that second. Mirta was way too drunk to comprehend what was happening in the room. Before he couldn't even argue back, I was trying to be so quickly. I grabbed his t-shirt next to the neck and just shoved him to the door, towards the door. My action was so, lightning, fast and precise. On the other side, my adrenaline was pumping like crazy and I was terrifying. But on the outside, I was trying to get my voice incredibly, deep and strong and strict. I looked at him and said, "Get out. This white shit is not going to be in my room." I threw him out. Likely the room door had a solid locker, so I slammed it and shut it and locked the door immediately. Mirta was sitting there and slurking. Why did you push him out? We was having fun. I just looked at her and said, "We're gonna speak tomorrow. Then you will be sober." Later on, when everything's calmed down, I was actually shaking. The adrenaline was heavy in my system and I was stimulatedly, furious and anxious, but extremely situation taught me something proudly about myself. Before that night, I was always thought that I am myself very soft, quiet, very easily to push it around. But after that moment, I realized I wasn't soft actually. I was tough. When I am pushed into the corner and I could react quickly, strictly, and taking the action and take the control of situation. I watched people arriving openly, say they had the partners back home, and then instantly falling in love with someone at the camp, despite on even speaking the same language. They would go home for a holiday, like for a few weeks, act completely normal, focused on their goals for the first few days, maybe a week, as soon as they back from the holidays, and then slowly sliding right back into the camp drama all over again. Thankfully, I also saw the inspiring sides. I saw people who stayed truly to themselves. They worked hard, saved their money, moved to the biggest cities, gained invaluable experience, stayed away from the drinking, from smoking, and eventually went back home, accomplishment of what they actually came for. Leena and Geena. Let me share a couple of specific people who left a very huge impression on me. First, let's talk about a woman. Let's call her Leena. She was from the same country like me, and she was quite overweight, much more than me back then at the time. I was actually boring good girl. I didn't swear, I didn't wear very provocative clothes back then. I felt deeply, honestly speaking, ashamed of my own body and my appearance. When Leena arrived, she was a little bit older than me. She was 32 or 35 back then. She was force of nature. She was entirely unapologetically self-confident. She could not have cared less about what other people think about her and their opinions. Her only goals were to earn money, go back home, and finalize her divorce. She had the child, as I remember. That's it, what I know. What amazed me about her was that she didn't care that her English was broken, or that while she's speaking, she's doing a lot of mistakes. She was wearing full makeup. She was nice. She was wearing nice clothes every single day before work. Even thought, we was wearing very ugly dark green uniforms while we scrubbing and cutting vegetables all day, all night. Can you imagine that? Her hair was always perfectly styled. She was always smiling, and her eyes were full of fashion. I was completely mesmerized by her. I kept thinking, how is it possible to be this confident? I wish I could be like you. And you may surprise, but the man absolutely loved her. She had always admired, following her around. She lived her life, the fullest at the camp. She was going in the pubs, club, doing her work, generally enjoying herself. She was honestly couldn't understand why I was so insecure about myself. Well, eventually we started working at the same night shift with the same team, talking for hours, and obviously, naturally, we became close friends. I will never forget one morning. She was in the pub all night, and then she came home. She was completely drunk. She didn't speak much. She was just listening to the music on her phone. I even heard the phone through all corridor when she was reaching the door. And she get in and just go back to sleep without any words. The phone was like a loudspeaker or something like that. Anyway, back then the phone was a little bit different. She, next morning, looked at me. She asked me, Dalia, how did I get home last night? My answer was very short, but it painted perfectly the picture of situation with the music. She was confused for a couple of seconds with the music. My answer was, yep. She thought about it for again a second, burst out laughing. And she asked me, where did I drop the phone? And I said, yeah, it fell down it's under the bed. We sat there and we started laughing about this whole situation. She was such a fun, colorful person to be around. Meeting Leena taught me massive lesson. It doesn't matter what the world thinks of you. It only matters how you feel about yourself first. You don't have to be perfect diva, and you don't have to be good in everything. Just have to own who you are. Seeing her life that through, right in the front of my eyes, it was a real lived experience. Then there was another girl. Let's call her Geena. She was only 23, maybe, or 21, something like that. Incredibly beautiful. From the outside, you could think she had all. She was gorgeous, she had a handsome boyfriend, and several other guys were secretly in love with her. Believe me, I know what I'm saying. But once I got close to her, I realized how deeply unhappy she actually was. She felt completely trapped. To survive in that intense environment, she resorted to playing games. She faked her smile, she collected gossips on everyone, and fed directly to the supervisor. And can you imagine, I was near this person who gossips about everyone, knows about everyone. I needed to be a little bit careful, but anyway, but again, I was a boring person. Yeah, I'm not doing crazy stuff, which is, I don't know, it's good, bad, anyway. She would report who was drinking last night, before who was slacking off at work, all just to get on the good side of a supervisor. And why? To secure more hours of work. Honestly, looking back, I couldn't even blame her, you know. When you are in desperate to survive and earn money, you do what you have to do. Conclusion. We've spoke about every single person I met. This video is going to be much longer, maybe 5 hours long. But here is my conclusion. I met people who were prettier than me, heavier than me, social, smarter than me, and less intelligent than me. But there was who stood out there, the ones who didn't give up. They tried new things, locked onto their goals, and were not afraid of being disliked. They weren't afraid of stand up for themselves. It was unforgettable, beautiful, chaotic experience. Yes, I drank. Yes, I went to work on barely any sleep sometimes. And yes, I had to learn to find my own voice. Now I remember one night, a couple from my country moved into my room. They were incredibly noisy. They was from day shift. And I was in the night shift. So basically, you understand, at the daytime, I need to have a sleep. They had zero respect for anyone else's personal time and sleep. And in the bedroom, there was more people besides of me. Day after day got louder and louder. The things was not changing. I stayed quiet, swallowing, my frustration. And finally, something clicked. I realized that this situation would keep happening in my life if I didn't put a stop to it. I couldn't sit around and waiting for someone, else to speak up for me. There was no Geena manipulating the situation and no Leena intimidate them with confidence. There was just me. So what I did, I had a serious, direct conversation with them. I told them they needed to respect our sleep, just like we respect theirs. I don't really exactly remember actually all the conversation, but you get the point. On the inside, my knees were shaking and my heart was pounding. But outside, I tried to force myself to stay completely calm, steady and firm. We got in an argument, but I stood up, my God, resolved the problem right then and there without waiting for the backup. Because I'm alone, there's nobody next to me. And guess what? The noise stopped. I will say it again. I don't know what the perfect age is to leave your parents' house, to move out. And I certainly don't think that everyone needs to go through the roof working camp experience like I did. But for me, that experience was actually catalyzed. It forced me to start working on to start building real confidence and to realize just, how much I am capable of handling on my own. It taught me that I already have the knowledge inside me. I just need to use it. Also gave me perspective, showed me that my past struggles weren't actually that bad and that things can always be worse. It's funny actually, that's how selective our brains are with memories. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video of an episode of Let's Talk About It. Thank you for listening to my story, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.